Oh, where'd it go? All right, we're in point 5. We're ready to pick it back up again with subpoint C. So point 5 told us that there are 3 general categories with regard to God's will, and these are the operational categories. We saw A, that a viewpoint will of God, or what does he want me to think, which of course is doctrine. The operational will, or what does he want me to do, and that's to get doctrine and function properly. And so next we have subpoint C. Subpoint C says, and finally, there's the geographical will of God, or quote, where does he want me to be? Question mark, end quote. The answer to this question is that he wants you to be where you will receive the maximum amount of doctrine necessary to fulfill the viewpoint will and operational will. You must get doctrine, comma, taught by your right pastor teacher, comma, to have it cycled into wisdom to use for your operational function. So I understand I'm not the right pastor teacher for everybody, right? And I think I'm the right pastor teacher for more people than are here. Okay, I will state that. I think that there are more people who are supposed to be getting doctrine in this geographical area than are getting doctrine. Okay, but I also understand that there are individuals that are in this geographical area that are in the wrong geographical area. I'm not their right pastor teacher. They have a right pastor teacher somewhere else, and they are supposed to be getting to that geographical location to get that doctrine from that someone else. Okay, so the key of where am I supposed to be is based on where are you supposed to be to get the doctrinal information to function properly that you need. And you be there. And God will provide your right job there. And if you're single and in the process of trying to identify a right man or right woman, God will provide the right man or right woman there. You aren't going to be in one location and God is going to be providing the right woman in another location and expect you guys to have a properly functioning marriage where you're living in 2 different geographical locations. Okay, especially not for the long term. Now there's times in short term, I understand where that happens. There's obviously things associated with objective reality that happens. Someone may have a job in one place before they started getting doctrine or something, and it's the other person, the mate, has a job that moves them to some other place. But the idea is that you're supposed to be where your right man or right woman is. Okay, otherwise there's too much of temptation. Remember, one of the reasons that God created right man, right woman is for sexual temptation, so that you don't have the sexual temptation to malfunction because you are by yourself. Remember, it is not good that man be by himself. The woman is created to fulfill the man. And fulfilling means also sexual fulfillment. And so that can't happen, obviously, if one of you is in Maine and the other one is in Southern California. Okay. Now, with today's day and age, though, it doesn't mean that your right man and right woman can't be in a different state and you guys find each other via the internet or whatever, but eventually you have to be in the same place. Okay? But the primary part of that, though, is for you to be in the geographical will of God so that you can get the information necessary to function properly. That's where the responsibility is. You are supposed to be where your right church is located. And if you don't think this is your right church, if you think like Baraka is your right church, then leave here and go to Baraka. Don't sit here and come to this church and then try and take tapes and then try and figure out, or not tapes, they're not tapes anymore, they're CDs and DVDs, right? Don't get DVDs and then try and come up and ask questions like I'm supposed to answer what Bobby Theme is now teaching. Okay, ain't gonna happen. If you're supposed to be under Bobby Theme, go be under Bobby Theme. If you're supposed to be over at West Side, go to West Side. And I understand perfectly the information associated with right church, right congregation. Okay, like I said, I think there's supposed to be more people here than what we've got, and that would be nice. Okay, and that's what we pray for when we have our prayer meeting, is proper church growth. But I don't want to grow. I don't want to have butts in seats, as we used to call it at work. I don't want to have butts in seats that are just associated with filling the chairs and have a whole bunch of antagonism. I know we're small, but we're positive, and we're continuing to get information. And that's good. And I continue to believe that I'm the right one to provide that information. And I'm going to start providing more information here soon. Okay? So, where does he want me to be? He wants you to be where you can fulfill the point of the viewpoint will and operational will. Continue the point. Well, you must get doctrine taught by your right pastor teacher to have it cycled into wisdom to use for your operational function. I gave you that, right? The last sentence, therefore, the geographical will of God So therefore, the geographical will of God is for you to be where you can function properly in your priesthood and grow to maturity. Proverbs 4:7. Remember when we studied James, we saw the improper function of several individuals that were going to places just to make money. Remember that? They weren't staying where their local church was. They weren't staying where they were getting information. Instead, they were going from town to town, traveling salesmen, if you will, okay, just to make money. Now, if they were out doing that but returning back to their proper which are in parents with a single line through it, you should walk. Semicolon. In here, we have a very close word. Instead of darak, we have halak. That's H-A-L-A-K, halak. And halak means to come or to go with a special purpose. So the idea is you have this moment-by-moment focus from the darak part of it, or derek, okay, the moment-by-moment focus. And the reason is so that you can walk with a special purpose. And the special purpose, of course, for any believer is to be functioning in the will of God, to have maximum blessing, maximum grace in time. Okay? So that's the way you should walk. I will instruct you and teach you in the way of life in which you should walk, semicolon. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. End quote. Remember, see, God's plan is created for every individual individually. So therefore, God has his eye on every single one of us. And it's different. God's plan for you is not the same as God's plan for me. God's plan for twin brothers or twin sisters is not exactly the same, even though they're twins. And they have a lot more genetic material in common than you have with your siblings. They still have the old sin nature of their father. In this case, their old sin natures are probably very, very, very in tune. they can get doubly in trouble. Okay? But God's plan for them may be different. That's why it's interesting to see, I'll diverge one more time, there are still conjoined twins that are being born this day and age. We still have that kind of deformity. Usually deformities, a lot of deformities are associated with wrong man, wrong woman relationships. But there's a set of very famous twins, conjoined twins, two girls, that are joined at the chest, right? And they look like a two-headed person, except they have a very wide body. Right? And they were on TLC and other shows and things like that, right? And they had different aspirations. One wanted to be, I think, like a doctor, and the other one wanted to be like a dancer or something, right? It just shows you that there's different souls in these two brains. Okay? I don't know. I have quit with cable. I quit watching that kind of stuff anyway, actually, because TLC, which was supposed to be, I don't know what TLC was supposed to stand for, but my kids dubbed it the Living Circus because they had all kinds of weird shows on there, My 1,000-Pound Life and things like that. But anyway, I don't know what's happened to them. I don't even know if they're still alive or not. But I do know at one point they were going to college and they were studying different things in college. Can you imagine that, having to go through twice as many classes? What, does one of them sleep through while the other one's in the other one's class, or do they both get dual degrees, or what? I don't know, right? But they were living in a dorm by themselves, right? And going to classes. I just thought it was amazing that they could balance. They only had one set of legs, right? Because they were joined at the chest, right? So they had two heads. I believe they still had both had two arms. I think it was divided at about, no, they didn't have two arms, they only had one set of arms. Okay? They just had one body with two heads, so I guess it was at the head, actually. But it was actually, they did have different collarbones and hearts and things like that, but they just didn't have different different arms. But, anyway, so what I was getting at is God's plan for every individual is different, including those two young ladies, okay? So I will instruct you and teach you in the way of life in which you should walk. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. There's one sentence here that I want to give you. It says, no one can do the will of God without knowing it. That sounds very pedantic, but that obviously is not understood by many believers. They think that they can do the will of God by opening up the Bible and pointing, and God will direct them as to what verse and passage they should be focusing on right now. Or they will believe that they can go to a church that doesn't teach doctrine, instead teaches feel good. Right? This is how you feel good. This is how you know you're doing God's plan, if you're loving everybody, and if everybody loves you. Now let's spend the next 30 minutes singing. Right? That's garbage. You can't understand the will of God if you don't know it. Okay? So no one can do the will of God without knowing it. God, continue the point, God doesn't guide by emotion, comma. He guides by knowledge, with emotion being the responder. Period. See, your understanding of doctrinal information, doctrinal information gives you the ability to have proper emotion, the ability to use the knowledge that God has given you to appreciate the things that He gives you, to have the proper emotion. A good example, I can give you a classic example that happened to me Friday, because our water was shut off, and there was nothing we could do at our house anyway, because we couldn't get in and out of the house. The garage wasn't able to be opened. Okay, our water had to be shut off. Everything was kind of stuck. Melissa and I decided one more last splurge. Okay, and we went up to Flagstaff. And we spent the night up in Flagstaff, where we could have water, we could take a shower. But anyway, while we're up in Flagstaff, up on the Mogollon Rim, they're having rain up there. They are having a monsoon, unlike us. And so while we were up there, we went for a walk, and it was quite a walk from the hotel. We went all over town, and as we were walking back to the hotel, we got caught in a little bit of a rainstorm. Right, and so we really quickly found shelter underneath an overhang and kind of stood there watching the rain come down. Well, in the process, we got to see this tremendously large, it was just huge, beautiful rainbow. Okay, and you could see, you couldn't see the ends because the ends were on the other side of the building, but behind the buildings, you could at least see that it wasn't just a little bitty arch up in the sky, it was this huge, beautiful rainbow. And I didn't instantly think, oh look, for all my gay friends. I used doctrine and understanding of God's will and said, hey, look, that's a reminder that we're never going to have another flood. That's what the rainbow was for, right? So it was God's reminder that he's never again going to end the earth with a flood, and that instead he's provided us all of this information that we have to function properly and to be in his will. And I could enjoy the rainbow. I didn't have to sit there and worry about whether, is Larry going to catch AIDS or not? I didn't turn it into something disgusting. It was a knowledge of God and being able to look at it and say, oh, that is beautiful. And that's God's reminder to us of all of the fantastic blessings that he has given us. And we never again have to worry about being destroyed by a flood. And so that's how understanding doctrine, having the will of God, can help you on a moment by moment and a proper kind of emotion. And it was pretty emotional. I think Miss took probably 8 pictures of the thing from different angles because it was so beautiful. It was so cool to see. And it was so interesting. We enjoyed, gave us the opportunity to enjoy being out and actually getting caught in the rain. Instead of going, oh, dang, now we're all wet and we're caught in the rain and this is horrible and it's a mess. It was like, nope, you could enjoy it. We walked back to the hotel. The rain finally stopped. We were able to walk back to the hotel and say, wow, that was a really nice walk. And as a result, one of the side benefits is we got to see this beautiful rainbow. So it's a fantastic blessing. Anyway, that tells us that I'm not trying to prove how great a believer I am. I'm just trying to say that getting knowledge gives you the opportunity to appreciate things and look at it from the right perspective. Okay? Subpoint 2 will be Hebrews 5, 13, and 14, but it's already 11:29, and this has 3 pages of notes, so I don't think I'm going to start it. So this is where we will pick it up next week. And now we will go ahead and close with a song. And it's from the folders. And it's the rest of song number 12.